This is not the best flowchart ever, but the way I see the app that I've made working is that if you were to pretend you were in, let's say, a board game club in high school, and you wanted other people to know that there were board games going on in different classrooms in the school at various times throughout the week. One way you could do it was to create a billboard or a bulletin board, and players who wanted to have a game had little pieces of paper, and they would post them on the billboard, and they would say which classroom they were going to be in, what time they were going to be there, and what game they were going to be playing. Each one of those things, like the classroom would be the racetrack, the board game itself would be the type of car you were using, and the time of day obviously is still the time of day. The entry fee is not included in that, but you could make it a betting thing, but it's high school. So if you think about the app that way, you have to enter everything manually as you would when writing something down on a piece of paper and posting it to the bulletin board. And that's exactly what this is. It's you have to do all the work yourself. So before I start, I just want to say that the app that I've made, the Billboard Racing app, and the Upland Racing game are not linked at all automatically in any way. Everything that you do, you have to either do in the app by yourself or in the game by yourself. There is no getting information from the app or from the game either way. I could become a developer, I guess, and get some information automatically, but at the moment I don't think there's all that much available. From what I've seen other players doing, there's basically very, very limited information that's coming from the racing app. There's no logs, there's no well, I guess there's some logs if you want to look at who has paid for a race, but no logs of automatic races where there was zero money entered. If it seems like it's going to be beneficial for me to do that, I will try, but at the moment I didn't think it was worth the effort. So what I see, the way I see my app benefiting a player is the two reasons that I stated before in another video, where you could create an event that you tell people you're going to create in the future, essentially. If you want to, you could say, I'm going to create a race next week at 6 o'clock using an S1, and the entry fee is going to be 5,000 UPX. That way, if you post that message, people will be able to see it, and they will be able to join at that time when that time arrives. So that's basically what I've tried to do. In this side of the flowchart, you can see this is where future events are created. An ordinary player creates a future event, and then there are current events where if you were, instead of creating a race in the future, you create it right now. That's essentially what's happening right now in Upland, but you can only create you can create a private event if you have a place to tell everybody, but the public events are the only ones that show up in the game. So all of the events that I am encouraging people to create are private events. You don't want to create a public event. If you create a public event, you can't control, well, you can never control who's going to enter the race, but you can't tell people which type of car you are using. And that's the most important part. So what would happen is a player comes in and creates a race that's going to race at some point in the future, let's say 2 days from now. At this point, they can create, or they can send themselves an email reminder, and the race that they create automatically sends a notice to other players that are a member of the app that there is now a race available for them because they have a certain car. It will tell them what day the race is on, what track it's on, what car they're going to use, and what the fee is to join. They can either ignore the race, or they can, as you will see over here, they can show some interest in the event. And what that is clicking a button, which then sends an email back to the race creator saying someone has shown interest in your race. So if you were a race creator and you say, I'm going to create a race in 2 days from now, and no one sends you a response back saying I'm interested in this race, you may show up on the day that you said you were going to create a race at the time you said you were going to create it, and no one joins. But if you have 10 people show interest, your lobby is going to be more than full, but at least you know that it's worthwhile creating the race. And that's what the showing the interest idea is all about. And again, it's all manual. You have to do it manually. You can't have it happen automatically. You'll see all this in action when I'm demoing the app in a couple of videos from now. But basically, after the person has created the race will show up in the upcoming races tab, and the future time is set. As a viewer, like I said, the viewer will get an automatic email saying, if they have the type of car, they will automatically get an email. If they don't have the car, they could still log in and see that the race exists, and they may go, oh, I'd like to join that race, but I don't have that car, and then they could buy a car to join the race. Just because they don't have one at the moment doesn't mean they couldn't buy one before the race starts. So as a person wanting to find a race or join a race, you would, once this future race time is set, it will then be visible to anybody who is using the app, and it will appear on the upcoming screen. Like I said, if you have the car, it'll automatically send you an email. You could then send yourself a reminder, which is then kind of doubling on this, but it's two different things in a way. And then you can show interest in it, and then an email is sent back to the race creator. When the time comes for the event to take place, there is no more emails sent to the race creator to remind them. The idea is that when they created the race, that's when they should have set themselves a reminder on their phone or on their watch, or however they want to do it. I don't want to spam everybody with 10,000 emails. I'm going to try and keep it to as little as possible. But let's assume that you are creating a race, and the time shows up that you should create it, and you've got an alarm on your phone, and it tells you, hey, you should be creating a race because you promised to create a race. So you could either arrive slightly early, right on time, or a little bit late. Doesn't really matter which. But as soon as you do arrive in Upland to create the race, you should create it with all of the things that you said you were going to do. The event entry fee, the type of car, the track are all important, and they should be entered correctly, so that when you get the private code and you put it into the race in the Billboard app, it shows up correctly. It's not a lie, in other words. I guess if you said you were going to, if here you created a race and you said you were going to use S4s, if you create the race and say, oh, I've changed my mind, I'm going to do S2s, anyone who enters the private code is going to feel ripped off if they're not in a race that's, with the correct vehicle. Also, the correct amount of entry fee is also important. The track, not so much, but if someone knows a track really well and that's what they want to race on, then that's what you should be choosing. So it's important to, whatever you put in the race and the future events, you create that in Upland when you actually create the race, when the time comes. So anyways, you create the race, you get the private code, you enter the private code back into the Billboard app. Now everybody can see the code, and then they can enter the code and join your race. So basically that's what's happening. That's what all this is describing. You can pause the screen and look at it if you want. But there is a problem, like I've mentioned in the previous video, that if you're in the lobby by yourself for more than 10 minutes, the race will lock up. I have tested this a number of times, and I've sent the Upland support team a message about it. There is nothing you can do to change that. I would suggest that if you create a race and you're getting close to the 10-minute mark and no one has shown up, just start racing by yourself. You'll get all your money back. Because you're racing against AI or no one, the game basically just gives you all your money back. If someone joins the race, let's say at 9 minutes and 50 seconds, the counter will, in Upland, the counter will start counting down from 5 minutes. So once the second player, you will be the first player in the lobby because you created the race. The second player, or the first person to join, is the one that actually starts the timer in Upland. Until the second person joins, the timer never starts. It just says waiting for players. So once if you're going to get more players, they need to hurry back into the Upland game to be able to join. They've only got 5 minutes. It seems like a lot of time, but sometimes it's not. Entering the private code in the app will then start the counter counting up to 10 minutes. But once the second player enters the lobby and the race starts counting down, you should go back into the Billboard app and press the start button to create to make the start, or the counter start counting down to 5 minutes, or from 5 minutes, the same way that it counts down in the race. And again, this will probably become clearer once you do it a couple of times. Again, clumsy, but I can't do it any other way. So again, what happens is the time for the race appears. You go into Upland and create the race with all the information you said you were going to. You get the private code. You go back into the Billboard app and you enter the private code so that people see that the race now actually exists, and the counter starts counting up to 10 minutes. Once the second player joins the lobby, the Upland timer starts counting down from 5 minutes, and you should at that time go back to the Billboard app, press the start button so that counter starts counting down. This only makes it's only important for players who are coming into the app who don't know the race exists yet and see, oh, there's a current race. I have 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute or however long to join the race. So they can grab the private code, jump into Upland and try and beat the time to start the race. One other thing is that there's still a lot of races still time out. You could have entered all the correct information and be in the race's starting screen where it's the loading bar essentially, and you get locked out. I've had that happen a few times, and it's annoying, but that's the way it is. You can't always be assured that you're going to be in a race that you thought you were going to be in. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's a lot of manual interaction that you have to do, but hopefully it enables people to race without the fear of thinking that they're going to be racing against people with cars that are faster than theirs. And it gives you the ability to create a race in the future to let people see that there are upcoming races.